Welcome to Cinema Bites. Your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. Our story today begins at a biological research station in the Arctic. Daniel and Hiroshi enter the lab and are shocked to find all the animal cages open and 2 of the staff dead. They see their friend Peter is still alive but in very bad state. As soon as Hiroshi gives him some water, Peter feels something moving in his throat. Hiroshi names this new disease Progress. The next day, a full team from the Center for Disease Control arrives, led by Alan, Peter's brother. Alan learns from Hiroshi and Daniel that no one else is infected, meaning the virus is not airborne and quarantine is unnecessary. Each team member has special chips in their hands, allowing them to move freely within the organization and access any system they need. They discover they only have 1 hour of satellite time per day to transmit new information to the outside world. Alan and Julia go to see Peter, who is lying tied to a bed. Seeing his critical state, Alan is sure Peter won't live long. Julia takes a blood sample and asks Peter some questions, but he only responds with one phrase: the White Room. Julia is surprised to see Peter's blood is extremely black. Suddenly, Peter breaks free, throws her aside, steals the needle, and Alan is forced to subdue him and inject him with a sedative. Examining Peter's body, they discover all his tissues have transformed strangely, and his blood is thick and black. Meanwhile, Dorn and Sergio search Peter's lab and find genetically modified Russian rats. When Daniel insists they never used monkeys in their experiments, their suspicions grow. Sergio checks the drainage pipes and finds monkey hair, realizing Daniel lied. They search the whole facility and find a locked door that even their chips can't open. Sergio uses nitrogen to break the lock. Inside, they find many empty cages. Dorn smells monkeys and notices the cages are open from the inside. Suddenly, a monkey appears and tries to escape. When Dorn approaches, it turns violent and attacks her, forcing Sergio to kill it to protect her. Dorn notices strange pulsations coming from its neck. At the same time, Alan and Sarah search Peter's room further and find a flash drive. They play a video where Peter makes a strange hand signal. Alan immediately recognizes it as a secret code they used as kids to warn each other of danger. Suddenly, they discover Peter has escaped through the ventilation shafts. Daniel closes all the vents and releases gas to immobilize Peter. Alan decides to go in himself to search for his brother. He follows a trail of black blood and is shocked to find a severed arm and a corpse. He takes the arm and orders his team to focus because the situation is extremely serious. Sarah and Julia work in the lab and discover a strange virus 15 nanometers long, the first time this has happened in history. They realize this virus caused Peter's genetic changes. Sergio pulls a strange device from his pocket and goes outside to send a message, only to be shocked by the large number of frozen monkeys around. He talks to Hiroshi, who explains that all the organizations they work with have been affected by these events. Meanwhile, Peter disguises himself as one of the team, uses a chip to open a lock, enters a room, and kills everyone inside. The next day, Sarah interrogates all the doctors: Haven, Bryce, and Suleimani. 3 scientists manage to escape from Peter and try to save themselves. The whole team searches for the missing scientists. Dorn conducts a full examination of the monkey, and Tracy starts talking nervously, saying she doesn't want to go back to the White Room, and speaks to someone who isn't there, claiming they wanted to use the virus as a nuclear weapon. She suddenly tries to escape, acts strangely, and Dorn stops her just in time. After a while, Tracy regains consciousness, apologizes, and then faints again. Checking the injection records, Julia discovers Peter injected the rats with a strange compound called Narvac. Some rats received Narvac 1, others Narvac 2. All scientists who helped Peter with this experiment were found dead. Julia asks Hiroshi to repeat the experiment to study the results herself. She finds all rats injected with Narvac 1 die, while those injected with Narvac 2 have the same strange infection but none die. One of them becomes violent, breaks the glass, attacks a normal rat, and starts pouring the same black sticky substance into its mouth. At the same time, Daniel and Sergio capture one of the missing scientists, who appears very ill. They barely manage to get him to the clinic. The rest of the staff are surprised they're still there after all that's happened, and no one has ordered an immediate evacuation. When they ask Alan, he explains that no one can leave because it risks spreading the infection to the whole world. After a while, Haven starts suffering and hallucinating. Sarah goes alone to the storage room to find any medicine that might help. Suddenly, Peter appears, locks her inside, tells her presence is no coincidence, then escapes again through this ventilation shaft. When Alan, Sergio, and Daniel arrive, Sarah tells them everything. Sergio finds black blood in all the vents and suspects Peter is leaving a trail on purpose. He realizes Peter stole the camera and is right above them. The rest of the team rescues Sergio, who is found unconscious. Unfortunately, Peter escapes again, and no one can catch him. Sarah realizes no medicine is affecting Haven, who is getting worse. Bryce and Suleimani decide to take him out, but Sarah refuses and argues with them. Bryce threatens her to let him go. She calls security, and Alan goes himself to the isolation room, removes his suit to gain the scientist's trust, and they finally believe him and let Sarah go. Julia then talks to Alan and Sarah, explaining her test results. The rats injected with Narvac 2 seem to have transformed into another creature and behave with extreme aggression. She finds that this substance stimulates the brain and affects all the actions of its host, just like Peter does exactly, and Doreen and Tracy are taken to intensive care, hoping they might get better a bit. At the same time, Haven starts having a strange episode, and Sarah rushes to check on him and help him, but it turns out everything he's doing is part of his plan. As soon as she gets close to him, he hits her and tries to escape. Bryce and Slimani attack Doreen, get her out of the room, and the two of them escape in the end. After a while, Sarah notices her hand shaking in a very strange way. Alan stands in front of Hiroshi and confronts her about everything she said, but she insists she didn't know any of this was happening. As soon as he leaves her and walks out, she looks in a secret photo album, and we see inside it a lot of pictures of Julia. Later, Peter attacks Alan and infects her with the black substance he has, and escapes again. The next day, Alan finds her lying unconscious in the bathroom. When he asks her what happened, she says she doesn't remember anything at all. He helps her to her bed, and suddenly he hears a sound, follows it, and finds Peter in the lab in very bad shape. Alan sits with the rest of his team and orders them to close all the entrances and exits of the organization. Sarah and Doreen gather all the staff and ask them to report any strange symptoms, even if they're minor. Alan takes Peter to the isolation area they set up, and Hiroshi warns him that his brother has become very dangerous and could kill them all. She convinces him to move Peter to the second level, which is a completely abandoned lab with very tight security, making it the safest place for him. While they're talking, Slimani suddenly appears in front of them, black blood coming out of his mouth, and he looks at them in a terrifying way. He apologizes for what he did, and before he can get close to Hiroshi, Daniel shoots him. Alan tries to get the bullet out quickly before she dies, covers the wound, and treats it. Meanwhile, Julia looks at herself in the mirror and sees a lot of wounds suddenly appear, and the black substance comes out of her mouth. When she comes to, she realizes they were just hallucinations. Sarah's hand keeps shaking while she's working, and she feels it's gotten out of control and starts to get scared. Julia takes a blood sample from Peter and returns to the lab to analyze it. Sarah tells her she finally managed to develop a virus test and discovered that 3 of the security guards are not infected, but Peter, Tracy, and the scientists they found are infected. Julia tests herself and is shocked to find it's positive, but pretends it's negative and hides the real result in her pocket. Sergey and Doran return to the lab, continue testing on the monkey, and find it has suddenly disappeared from the lab. Doran blames Hiroshi for everything, but Sergey convinces her she's wasting her time and asks her to get a new, easier sample. They go out together, and Sergey uses a drill to get a sample from the frozen monkeys. In the corridor, Bryce tries to get out through the armored door using an axe, calling out for someone named Duchamp. Alan and Daniel arrive at that moment and surround him from all sides. He starts throwing up the same black substance and explains to them that there is a cure for the infection called Sadra, and tells them they will find it behind the armored door. When he tries to attack Alan, Daniel stuns him with a taser, knocks him to the ground, and security is asked to take him to the second level like Peter. Alan manages to open the door, and Dr. Duchamp tells him there is no such cure and that the disease has no cure at all. Doreen continues her work and starts using the new sample. As soon as she puts it in the device, it grows in a terrifying way. So Doreen kills it with gas, realizing that viruses don't grow like that. Bithbib grabs her, pulls her inside, and locks the door. After she calms down, this person removes his mask and tells her his name is Jay. Julia looks for any supplies around and notices his name carved on the wall, and she's shocked because it's the same way she writes. At that time, Ijim starts hallucinating. Her condition worsens, and Sarah realizes that she is indeed infected and that the test is completely inaccurate. Since Ijim is an oncologist, she confirms to Sarah that all her symptoms indicate she has a tumor, and agrees to keep it a secret between them if Sarah also doesn't tell anyone she's infected. Sarah goes to inform Alan that the test is inaccurate. At the same moment, Peter wakes up and Duchamp discovers that the virus is starting to come back. Peter has a heart attack, and Alan insists on putting him on a ventilator to keep him alive. Sarah gets worse and can't find any medication to calm her. so she's forced to use a very strong painkiller. Even Ijim's condition gets much worse, and she screams in pain until Sarah gives her a very strong painkiller too. Hiroshi opens secret stairs in his office, and he and Daniel reach the air purification office in seconds. When they arrive, they find some scientists there, armed and ready to attack them. Hiroshi calms them down and promises to save and help them. They actually believe him and restart the air purification system. Suddenly, Hiroshi takes Daniel's weapon, attacks, and kills all of them. He asks Daniel to hide the bodies elsewhere and goes to look for Julia. On the way, he meets Haven, surprised that he doesn't approach him at all, and just lets him pass. The next day, Sergei burns all the frozen monkeys outside and sends a message to his boss, saying the mission is over and he's preparing to leave. Suddenly, his boss replies with another message, telling him his new mission is to find Dr. Haven by any means. Sergei is shocked to hear the monkeys screaming, which means they're still alive after all this. Sergei returns to the office and searches for Dr. Haven in the system, but strangely finds no results at all. At that time, he finds an announcement about a way to make the new serum stronger than before. He brings Dushan to run the test again from the start. Hiroshi pretends he was attacked before reaching Julia, and tells her that some scientist tried to shut down the air system, attacked him, and tried to kill him. He convinces them to come with him to the other side of the facility quickly. Hiroshi and Julia manage to hide together in a room, but unfortunately Jay doesn't make it and is attacked and infected. Julia asks about the scars on his body, and Hiroshi explains that he was trying to save his daughter from death when the house caught fire, and that's how he got the scars. When they feel things have calmed down, they leave to continue on their way. Haven sees them and tries to catch them by any means. Jay stands in Haven's way and saves Julia's life at the right moment. They fight until Haven passes out. When it's all over, Julia is shocked to realize she was hallucinating and that Jay wasn't even with her. Alan finds Doreen's body lying in the lab and thinks someone intended to open the cages and get rid of her. When he checks the cameras, he discovers that all the footage is missing and is sure something is wrong behind what happened. When Alan leaves, Daniel checks the cameras again and notices that Sergei was walking in the corridors at the time of the crime. Sergei goes to Duschamp's room and asks him about Haven. Duchamp explains that he was here with them and suddenly disappeared, and no one knows where he went. He thinks he might be in the white room everyone talks about. Daniel enters and interrupts them, asking Sergei to come with him. He starts hitting him against the wall and asks what he did to Doreen. Sergei calmly tells him to ask Hiroshi. Meanwhile, Ijim is in severe pain and asks Sarah to kill her because she can't take it anymore. Sarah is forced to do what she asks. At that time, Alan examines Doreen's body and finds a needle mark, suspecting she died from it. Alan goes to tell Sarah everything that happened and what he suspects. Sarah becomes more psychologically distressed. When she tries to get close to him, he argues with her, leaves, and walks away. Sergei and Alan look for Doreen's research to understand what she was hiding from them. Sergei manipulates Alan's mind, tries to remove all suspicions, and even convinces him that Doreen was working with someone named Heft, and that he should look for him too, having served him without realizing it. Daniel talks to Alan and advises him not to trust Sergei at all. Alan actually goes to search Sergei's room and finds explosives, a special artificial organ dish, and even Doreen's research hidden. He sees a message indicating he found Heft in the White Room and is requesting evacuation. When Daniel learns all this, he quickly escapes. Alan goes to talk to Duchamp and tells him everything that happened. Duchamp explains that this is a signal for the North Pole. Daniel reaches a hidden place, presses a strange device, and things start appearing from under the ice. Suddenly, Sergei kills him, and we understand that this last message was just a trap. He traps them there, and Sergei grabs Heft's head, which appears along with many other heads rising from underground. He finds Alan in front of him and keeps beating him. Unfortunately, he defeats Alan easily, injures him, leaves him lying in the snow, and walks away. Luckily, Alan manages to grab the rope again and returns to the base with great difficulty. At the same time, Sergei sends a message to the manager, not knowing that Daniel has also set a trap for him. Daniel suddenly appears, stabs him, removes all the isolation gear from him, takes Heft's head, and quickly returns to the facility. On the 6th day, a mysterious person starts dragging Sergei's body away. On the 2nd level, Julia sees her young daughter walking in the corridor and starts following her. Suddenly, she bumps into Peter and realizes she was seeing hallucinations again. She looks ahead and sees the little girl vomiting a black substance from her mouth, which makes her wake up suddenly. She is now certain that the infection has spread widely and that she is still locked in the room with Hiroshi. She hears one of them screaming for help, then faints. When she wakes up, Hiroshi gives her a sedative to help her sleep and rest more. He leaves her, quietly exits through the secret hallway after sealing the door, and makes sure she is safe. Back to Alan. who uses chemicals to dig a big hole in the ground so he and Sarah can get through to the second level. He uses fire to break the door in front of him. Suddenly, some of the infected appear and try to forcefully drag Sarah away. Alan appears, cuts off the hand of one of them to save Sarah, then takes her and quickly returns to the base. Sergei wakes up to find himself in a strange house, tied to a bed. A girl named Inanna appears, introduces herself, and tells him she is a survivor like him and has been living in the area for years. When he tries to free himself, Inanna presses on his wound and threatens him to calm down. She tries to get detailed information from him about what is happening at the base and shows him pictures of more than 30 children, confirming that they are disappearing inside the base. At the same time, Alan and Sarah understand that the infection targets certain brain cells. Hiroshi appears before them and insists that Alan search carefully first. Hiroshi explains that Narvik was originally developed to treat cancer patients, but someone inside the facility modified it and turned it into an incurable disease. When Alan leaves, Daniel tells Hiroshi that he killed Sergei. Hiroshi is shocked, hits Daniel, and tells him that now they will send an entire team to eliminate them. Julia continues to suffer from the same hallucinations and finds herself this time in a strange cabin with the little girl and Peter. The little girl tells her name is also Julia and explains that she comes to this cabin every summer with her mother. Julia realizes that this is the cabin she used to visit with her family as a child, and that the little girl is actually her younger self. Suddenly, the hallucinations intensify, and she finds herself sitting at the table with all her colleagues, who say they came here specifically for Julia, and that everything happening in the facility is because of her. As soon as she cuts the food in front of her, the same sticky black substance appears from it. She finally wakes up and finds her eye with a strange, empty look.